Hello, my name's Michael Conneely, and the title of this video is Sacred Space and Ritual Form. It's basically about what are the issues in using sacred space when you're celebrating festivals, doing vision journeys, conducting healing groups and so on. And I'm sharing it because when I sort of moved into the earth spirituality pathway, which I think was 23, 24 years ago, I was very much taught that you had to cast a circle, call the quarters. Some people even banished, did banishment rituals as well. And at the end of the ritual, or whatever it is, the sacred space was dispersed, the quarters were thanked and sent away. And sadly, I would say sadly, so often the rituals were people handed out bits of paper with scripted words, just so inauthentic. Okay, I think there's a lot wrong with that form of sacred space. I think, first of all, it's dualistic, within the circle good, outside the circle bad. And in fact, it encourages groups to have a dualistic mentality. I've seen it create scapegoating so often, where, because the whole energy of the space that you're working in is dualistic, it's so easy for the leaders of a group or members of the group to scapegoat someone. I've seen all this over and over again. So where did this casting of a circle come from? It's obviously used in European earth spirituality, but it isn't inherent to that at all. I did a 5-year field study of spiritual pathways new to the West. It was a social anthropology. It was an ethnography where the social anthropologist has to live with the people he studies. So I sort of lived with individuals, communities and institutions, and the pathways were Hinduism, paganism, Buddhism, shamanism, and utopian communities tread lightly on the earth. And so I sort of studied sacred spatial practices in detail, and I discovered they actually come, and this might surprise people, from the Jews at the time of Exodus. You see, sacred spatial practice of the Jews was very dualistic, very graded, and of course they had scapegoating. Okay, and why might they have had that? Well, the point is, I believe these practices cemented into place when they were fleeing from the dreadful persecution in Egypt, Exodus. And the thing is, they weren't connected to the land they were wandering in for 40 years before they found their promised land and occupied that. Sacred space was centered on the Ark of the Covenant, and that was wherever it was placed in a desert landscape in which they were traveling. So there was no connection with the earth. And then it was graded, so of course the part immediately surrounding the ark was the most sacred place, and only the high priest could occupy that. And then there was gradations of sacred space. Sacred space ended with the boundary of the camp of God's chosen people, and outside was not sacred. That has carried on into modern neo-pagan practice. It was carried forward through the intervening millennia in Kabbalah by the Jews in Europe. And of course it came into, modern Wicca and, magic through Aleister Crowley, for example. So I feel you have to be careful with a dualistic sense of sacred space. And so many of the Druid orders unquestionably teach the use of cast circle. And of course there are the even more dualistic, banishment techniques and so forth. Yes, we have to have spiritual and psychic protection. but they don't necessarily come from erecting ramparts which have nothing to do with the sacred energies of a place. So what I like to suggest to students on my Druid courses and courses to meet the gods and goddesses of the ancient Irish is that there's a different sacred spatial practice. I mean, it is up to you. I don't impose. I'm just saying, sharing with you my journey. And so I feel that sacred spatial practice should involve the person or the group attuning to the earth. A ritual takes place at an intersection point where time meets space, a place on the earth at a certain time. And so it's important to be aware of the energies of the time, sort of what the sun is doing, what the energies of the sun are, but also of the place. And that involves attuning to the soul of the place where you're holding the sacred ritual. What are the energies in the rocks? What is the spirit of the water? Meet the trees of the place. What gift of energy and consciousness are they giving you? And at the end of the ritual or the vision journey, thank the place because it will have given you its healing energies. That's why it's so valuable to do rituals really in healed places in nature, preferably not in a man-made city. And as I said, we run a healing centre here, and so through our worldwide courses, you can share with me, and my responses are endlessly sort of caring, and I've studied a great deal, have a lot to share. Or you can come and stay with us, visit the ancient sacred sites around here, visit these beautiful places and do rituals here. Maggie, my partner, has so many healing modalities as well that you can benefit from. So I do hope you'll enroll on my festival course, my various courses to meet the gods and goddesses of the ancient Irish. Thank you.